Hello and welcome to this tutorial. Now, it's been some time since I produced the last tutorial. I've had a few projects that I wanted to get done for myself, but also I wanted to just step back a bit because I realise I'm up to about 20 of that tutorial series, and it's getting to feel like a Blender tutorial series, and that's not what I want. You know, there's plenty of sites out there that show you how to model in Blender. That's not what I wanted to do. What I want to do is show you how to get the systems working in Train Simulator. You know, I'm no expert on that, but through trial and error, reverse engineering, looking at bin files and things like that, I got a bit more of an understanding now than I did you know, a year or two ago. So that's what I want to do. I want to put that 307 project on a hold for the moment while I concentrate on getting systems working. Now, with that in mind, if you perhaps look at this, it's a sort of crude representation, needs a lot of work. It's a crude representation of a class 700. Okay, everything's there that's on a class 700 on the desk, and if we go outside, there is the class 700 vehicle, the driving vehicle, the pantograph vehicle, the MSO and TSO and all that, with some basic furniture in there, tables and chairs, seats. I don't know why I said chairs, but seats. Okay, so yeah, it needs a lot of work to finish it off, but I'm not going to finish it off. I just wanted a vehicle to use as an example. So they will be on the Google Drive for you to download the blend files to use for this series. Okay, now the reason I chose the 700 was because someone hinted that let me start from the beginning. Someone gave away the files, either the IGS files or the game files for 700, and said, oh, you could use it with a 450 cab. Now, there was no explanation of how to do that, how to get it to work, and that sort of sparked me to think, well, look, by the time I find that out, because it's like pulling teeth, you know, getting things to work and getting the information at times. So rather than do that, I can produce one. I can produce one far quicker myself than go about that. So that's what I did. I started to produce one, built the vehicles, built the cab, okay, and I thought we'll go from there. It's quicker. If you're not going to tell me how to get it to work with another cab, then it's no good to me. That is what, you know, it was good of the person to give away the files, but that's what happens so much. There's only half a story in the developer's guide. It will say you can do this, but it doesn't tell you how to do it. Okay, and that's what I want to do. I want to take that bit away and actually show you how to do it, not just say, oh, you can have a cab light, you know. Let me press the there we go, you can put a light in the cab, but I'll show you how to do it, not just tell you can do it. Okay, I'll show you how to do it. So that's what we're going to do. Okay, so let's get on. We've got the vehicle, we've got the cab, we're going to go into the cab and just get it into a drivable state first off. I have done this before, but we'll go over it again. Okay, so we'll look at the how to open the doors, how to get the reverser working, regulator and all that. Okay, that'll be the first thing we do. So I'll see you then. Hello, here we are in Blender. This is the blend file on the Google Drive. Okay, if you have a look at it, you'll see a series of collections, some here marked common. Now that means that they are common to all vehicles. So when you export a vehicle, all of these want to be switched on. The bogies aren't marked common, but obviously they are. They're the same bogies for each of the vehicles. So they want to be switched on. Then you've got the individual vehicles here. This is the driving vehicle, the DMSO. You've got the PTSO, the pantograph vehicle. Okay, you've got a TSO there with the window blacked out, so to speak, for the toilet, and you've got the MSO there. Okay, so they're the vehicles. Now I've got this ambient light sphere here. It's just literally a sphere with an emission material on. Okay, I am not going to put any baked materials on to the vehicle. If you want to do that, there's plenty of tutorials out there to show you how to bake those materials. Okay, I'll just switch over. I think if I do in render mode, it might slow up me frame rate a little bit, but I'll just switch across there. Okay, so there we go. That's what it looks like. I'm going to go to the world tab and just switch ambient occlusion on. Now you will see that that's quite nice. The light in there underneath, it's bouncing up. You're seeing a really good definition there. Forget this. This is needs denoising, but that looks good. It won't look that good in the game with the plain materials, okay, because you, in certain light and circumstances, the light won't bounce and it will look bland. In fact, at times you won't even see the definition on that at all. It'll just look brown. Okay, if you want to bake those materials, that will help, and you can bake them with ambient occlusion on them, either as one or separate passes, and then combine them in Photoshop or something similar if you want to do it. I'm not going to do it because I'm concentrating on the systems, not the modeling. Okay, the one thing I would say that it's quite easy to bake. Now I certainly wouldn't push any paid software because I like to use free software most of the time, but talking about baking, let me sort of go on one of these tabs. Oh, here it is. I did buy this thing called Simple Bake, and I must admit I'm not sure how much it was. I felt it was quite cheap for what it does, but that's easy from my point of view. You might be at school or college or whatever, and your pocket money don't stretch that far, but it seemed reasonably well off. Of course you might also not have the income, but you can do it all yourself. You really can, with the inbuilt bake tab and that. But the good thing about this Simple Bake, it does it all for you. You just select it and whoop, it does it. Even makes copies of the mesh and keeps the original mesh and the original UVs and that, and will automatically apply the UVs to the new mesh and all that. It really does take the hassle out of baking, I must admit. But you can do all that. You can do all that with Blender's inbuilt tabs for baking. It just takes a little bit longer, that's all. And there's plenty of tutorials there about how to bake materials. Okay, so I would say that if you seriously want to use this model with as is, or with anything you want to add to it, then you will want to bake those things. You will want to do what they call pre-render, and that is really to have an ambient occlusion pass on it so that you can see into the dark areas. Okay, so that's that's baking, that's the materials. As I say, this isn't about that. This is about getting systems to work. If you want to do that, you go ahead and feel free. Right, okay, let's take it off. Let's take it off render. A little bit easier. By the way, this ambient light sphere, you can always make it invisible to the render. Okay, that's easy enough. Just look in the visibility tab and you can turn it off. Right, okay, let's now export one of the IGSs. Okay, so select the DMSO. I'm going to go end on. Now there's a case in question. Let's turn it off. I can see the mesh. Okay, now I've turned off all the lights, the camera and positioning empties, okay, so that I can just select the whole model like that, and it's selected the whole model. Okay, it's not selected anything else. If you do select a light and that, it will still export. I don't know if it'll export the light, but it'll still export even if you've got lights selected or cameras selected. Now there we go. Let's go to the export tab. Okay, export visible children. Yeah, only select visible children from parents. So sometimes when you want a light to switch on, you don't export it switched on, you turn it off, but as long as the parent is on, it will export it. But that's for when you've got parents that aren't switched on. Hierarchy processing. Now sometimes it's okay to have that on and let Briage do all the sort of extra processing, so that it works it out itself what's best. Sometimes it gets in the way, so you'll have to play about with that. I've left it off, okay, and hopefully my hierarchy is reasonably okay. It won't have any problems. But let's export, because sometimes you do have problems. I'm going to press export. I'm exporting anywhere at the moment with any name, and go export, and there you go. We've got an error. It says report error. Okay, you can read that and find out what it is, but don't worry about it. Now if it does that, then what you want to do is select a part of it and just export that part. Then just come back, okay, select the whole mesh again, export, and hey presto, it works. Okay, now there's nothing wrong with Briage, but what I'm doing there is I'm exporting the mesh. It's unmodified. Okay, so it's all got all these modifiers on it. Briage will apply the modifiers on export, but sometimes hiccups. Okay, now the reason they're like that is because it's work in progress. I might want to alter some of these and things like that, so I don't want to apply the modifiers. I could do and then keep producing a new mesh each time, but I don't want to do that. Now if you do want to do that, if you do want to make a complete mesh, just duplicate your collection, okay, and then shut down your original collection, turn it off, and apply all the modifiers on your duplicate collection, and then export it that way. That way you're not losing your original mesh with its modifiers. That things like bevels, you might want to play about with the bevel at a later stage rather than committing to that particular level of beveling or something like that. So that's why I've left those modifiers on. Okay, if you want to commit them, do as I say, duplicate the collection and work on the new collection. Okay, so there we go. That is the DMSO. Okay, and the other thing I want to say here is you'll see we've got the London Rail Plus there. It's actually Thameslink. You know it's Thameslink. I know it's Thameslink. But it's worthwhile not running the risk of copyright, especially if you do anything that you give away or sell. That's even worse. You are liable to copyright. You're liable to copyright even if you give it away. So just be aware of that you don't want to use logos when you sort of buy something from DTG or something like that, they would have licensed those logos for use on their game. So you know, you just have to be careful. Okay, if it's private, it's for your own. If it's for your own benefit, that's up to you, isn't it? But there we go. That is the driving vehicle. That's the main vehicle. Now what we want to do is have a look at the cab. Now, as if by magic, here we are. We're in the cab, and it's a basic, crude version of the 700 cab. The buttons here, oh, let's not go too far. The buttons here on the desk and on these panels, they are true to life. That's how it is, and they will function, hopefully. Some will be dummy, you don't need to alter things. Others you will use for things like this one here. There's a button down here on this this unit here, and that is cab light button. Okay, so you probably will want to animate that one. Others will be static. Things like this image here, you could try and animate it if you want. A lot of models that you get, a lot of trains you get in Train Sim, have lots of buttons that don't work and images that are just fixed there. Things like here is the platform cameras. Okay, I don't even know that whether you can actually have video operating live video there. I don't think you can in the Unreal Engine, but what people do is just put an image up there that comes on when you open the doors or get into the platform. Okay, so it's trickery in a lot of respects, and sometimes it's just not worth going through all the hassle of trying to animate. With this one, there is things like dates and the cab number, or rather the vehicle number. Now you could do those. You could you know, you can create a clock in Train Sim, and that's all that is. It's just that clock in miniature. So you just do exactly what you would do for a full-size clock, or the full-size numbers on the front, and just do them in miniature for overlaying on that image. And that's what you do, is you overlay on an image. Okay, here we've got the speedo, and that is just a mesh, just a single face that's overlaid above the image. Okay, so it looks as if it's part of the image, but it's not. And then we just animate that. Okay, same there. We've got a couple of dials here, but like in all modern trains, a lot is electronic display. A lot of the diagnostic sort of imagery, the diagnostic information was the word I was trying to think of. It's displayed on a screen. It's all digital controlled. We've got the sunflower there again. That's a simple thing. Again, a mesh that duplicates, but opposite to that just rotates when we want the AWS to show up the sunflower. So that's okay. A lot of this other thing, it does have, the real life thing does have these feedback messages and all that. No, I've got a message there because that was on the original when I saw it in a cab. It had 1020 brakes applied. You could put a message up there that doesn't pertain to the live scenario or whatever, so that it looks natural, it fills up the screen, but it doesn't, you know, it doesn't say anything that's going to break the illusion. So okay, then that's the layout. As I say, it's roughly, well, it is, all those buttons are the buttons as you would find them in the cab. Whether they look exactly the same, I don't know, but they are there. Now, the only thing I would say here before we go too far is you'll see things like this, which are empties. Okay, now the empties are there to control the angle of the button, because if you try and animate something that's rotating around the y-axis, shall we say, which is what these would do, these would rotate around the y-axis like that. Okay, now if you try to do that plus tilt it, because this desk leans back at about 15 to 20 degrees, and it leans this way as well, so it leans in 3 different directions. If you've got that, you try and animate that, and that'd be impossible. So the idea is I don't know if it's the only way, but the way to do it is to make an empty, okay, and you make that the parent of the dial like that. Okay, and you do it upright, so it's at 0, 0, 0. Okay, both of them, the dial and the empty, and then you can alter the empty, the angle of the empty, as long as that's the parent. You can alter the angle of that. It won't actually alter any of these settings. So with these, you can rotate them as you would as if it is upright. Okay, so that's the way to get dials working, or buttons being pushed in and going in the right direction without it becoming a real mess. So use an empty, or you could use the dial itself as the parent, because that then you could alter the angle of the dial, and it wouldn't alter the settings for the actual indicator. Okay, so that's what we do there. So let's I don't think there's anything else. If there is, I'll tell you as we go along. And also in the folder is a diagram showing what all these buttons are. Okay, now I haven't named them all, so like I say, this one I know is the cab light. I think this white one down here is the sander. I may not have named them. They might just be button 1 or something like that in the list. You might want to name them, but there is that diagram, okay, that will show you the layout and what the button actually does and what it is. So that being the case, let's get on with actually putting this vehicle in Train Sim.